Well, good afternoon, good morning for those of you who are on the West Coast, who are in Los Angeles. And I just want to say thank you for joining myself. My name is Saundra, and I'm the host of the podcast, Enter the Room. And I'm so excited to welcome our special guest, who's another native of Chicago, Illinois, as well as myself, but she now presently resides in Dallas with her husband, and that is Miss Seckeita Lewis. Am I right?
Sure.
Okay. And I met Seckeita and her husband Brandon back in February for the it was a Pan-African, actually it was January because it started in January, but it was for the Pan-African Film and Arts Festival here in Los Angeles. And their film, Impossible, was selected to be premiered or debuted here in Los Angeles at the festival. And so we met, we clicked, and at the time we didn't have, due to our schedules, we weren't able to do the interview back then, but we're very excited to have the lovely Seckeita Lewis here join us today, and she's going to tell us about her background and how she ended up in film. So welcome everyone for joining us today with Into the Room for this lovely director, writer, producer, Seckeita Lewis. Welcome. So, Seckeita, I was going through. First of all, congratulations on your second film, because this is your second film, correct? Okay, and which is called Impossible, and it deals with diabetes. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And as well as I want to touch on, she's also made, her first movie was Jerico. And I watched the trailer for that. That looks good as well. I hope, is that movie out yet? Or
it is.
It's still in?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon Prime. It's on Grio. It's on Tubi. It's out in the world. Lots of
it's out in the world. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. But we're here today to go over just your journey into the film industry, a little bit about your background. I know you're from Chicago. You used to work in corporate and marketing, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and branding, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I was reading about that. And then I'm curious, how did you and Brandon ended up going from, because he was a parole officer, am I okay? So how did you all end up in the film industry?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for interest in our project. Like we said, we met, I think, in the office when we first checking in for.
Yeah.
So thank you for having us on and wanting to know more about the project. I think, a little bit about us. And so, as you said, I'm from Chicago. Brandon is from Los Angeles. We met in Dallas. And I think both of us had interest in entertainment in different ways in our journey. Brandon, from the onset is, he's a natural born comedian. He, our first film is a satire. And so, it very much was in the wheelhouse of his background. My background is really, I enjoy and I love story. And I always have. So it's a circuitous route to get to where I am now. Like my background is actually electrical engineering first, because I wanted to be a Disney Imagineer. That was my first thing. Like I wanted to create story from that angle of things. But I ended up in telecom, very far away from the entertainment industry. And so, so I decided to make a career change, went back to school, and went into marketing as getting closer to like my creative, thirst of things. So spent, a very long time in the marketing world. And I don't see them very separate, honestly, marketing and entertainment, because marketing is all about storytelling, but a specific end of a brand or a product. And so, when it comes to wanting to go from that into entertainment, I wanted to
Right.
just have hands more in creating the story, as opposed to from a purist marketing perspective that may be more project management or working with agencies that may do that for you. I wanted to be a little more hands-on and telling stories that were coming to me. They're about my community and about my experience. And so
Right.
as brands came together, our first project was absolutely a satire, and it's funny, it's heavy in other areas, but this project came to us because it was very personal. So it came to us as Brandon was wasn't feeling well on our last set, had gone to the doctor and was diagnosed as pre-diabetic, and which is very common in our community. He didn't go back to the doctor for 2 years, and so he didn't want to kind of take that head on. And so, now on the set of our last film, he started to feel, sick, and went back and was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And so when we, so it came to and sat in our lap as far as,
Right.
project, why now? Because we had to have that conversation of what are we going to do about it? And that was the impetus of us saying, this is our next project, because this is rampant in our community, and we don't talk, right? We don't talk about it. We lose a lot of family members, and you often find out after the fact, well, they had diabetes, or, and so, diabetes, I think we're so used to it in our community that, that's why we talk about it. We're so used to it, but it puts you, twice as likely at least of having a heart event. So stroke, heart attacks, right? And I think people see those things as, oh, I'm like, I don't want to have a heart attack, but having type 2 diabetes increases your risk of those things. And, and for Black people specifically, the morbidity rates are much higher. People die much likely to pass away from having the complications associated with type 2 diabetes than the majority. So that was why we said, this is our next project. Brandon is personally committed to changing his lifestyle in order to be here for our little girl. We have an 18-month-old little girl now, for each other, for us to be here for each other. And that was the impetus. Use this project as an accountability partner for Brandon, and as a way to inspire others to get more active into their health. If they have type 2 diabetes or they're pre-diabetic, to say, what can I do to turn this around, to fight against this, to have the longevity and the quality of life that I want.
Wow. Well, I commend you for that, because it is an issue within our community, within the African American community, and yeah, it exists in other communities as well. But it really is something that tends to be prevalent, and not within ours. In your research, did you, because I'm sure you had to do research to find, did you find out like what is the percentage rate for the African American community compared to other communities of being having high diabetes?
Yeah, we are at least, it's probably more at this point, but at least twice as likely to have type 2 diabetes than the majority.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
it's black and brown indigenous communities are all at a higher rate than the majority.
And is that solely based on the foods that we're consuming, or?
It's not. There's a lot of factors that drive type 2 diabetes. Diet and lifestyle is one of them, but your genetics can predispose you for it. Medication can do that for you as well. So there's a lot of roads to get there, and there's often a lot of stigma with having type 2 diabetes because of that perception of like, oh, well, you could have, you could have done something differently. It's like it's all on you, and often it's not all on you, but there are things that we can do to fight against it. But there are a lot of factors that drive it, like I said, hereditary, medications, and diet and lifestyle are all particular reasons that can make it so much more likely for you to be have type 2 diabetes.
Right. And so, and when you decided to do this film, did you find that a lot of let's say like American Heart, Association, or I think that's the name of it, right? Did you find that the information, there were people that were really willingly want to share the vital statistics or whatever you need to get the movie made?
Yeah, there's some great organizations. So American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association. Brandon was actually a what's the word I'm looking for? A person.
An advocate?
An advocate.
Oh.
I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? An advocate. So he worked with the American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association have a program called No Diabetes by Heart. And so a couple years ago, he was selected as one of the folks that were working together, sharing their personal stories. And many of those people, thankfully, Brandon hasn't had a heart event, but many of the people who participated in that program had, and thank you, Brandon, ambassador, that program. And I was his champion. So we had official terms and
Oh, okay.
Many of the people who were part of that program had heart events that were related to their type 2 diabetes, and all of them shared stories. And so there are organizations that are trying to get the word out, and and so Brandon was one of the people that shared his personal story as a part of that journey as well. But to that point, I think there is an opportunity to share so much more and get closer to the community. And that's why we made the film, because we said, we could do a documentary, and there's so many great documentaries out there about, health and what we should do. But we decided to do it as a fiction, to do it as a narrative. It's loosely based on Brandon's real life. But of course, we take liberties because it's a fictional. But we want something that would entertain and kind of come at it from a different perspective, but hopefully inspire people through the film in order to, join him on his journey, because he's not done. It's a journey, and I'm not going to spoil the film, so I'm not going to say anything about what this like formative journey of taking back control of his health and all of our health.
Right. Exactly. And two, I think when you're doing it in the story form, it doesn't seem so much, it's a little softer. It's dealing with a delicate issue. Yeah. Because, people are sensitive about their weight, about their health. So you want to approach it in a way to where they can identify and not be necessarily insulted, because you're trying to advocate, you're trying to help them to get to that, to get to a better, healthier state in life. So that was wise. Yeah, that was wise. So, and your casting, I see that you had some very well-known people in it. And I said, whoa, for an independent filmmaker, you managed to secure some heavy hitters. Let's just be honest. You have Sherry Shepherd from the Sherry Shepherd TV show, The View, 30 Rock, and then you have Joe Marie Payton from Family Matters and Proud Family, and Greg Daniels from True Blood and Insecure. So you managed to get some people who are actively out there that we know, that we see. Yeah. How did that happen?
Yeah, we have been truly blessed with the cast. And what's crazy is that each one of them have had a personal connection to the story. So type 2 diabetes have touched their lives in some way, shape, and form that drew them to want to be a part of this project because of the impact that it can make. We were lucky enough to have Joe Marie and Greg in our last film. And so we had developed relationships with them when this project came along. And then with Sherry, you know, we met her at a festival and shared our project. And, you know, she was on her health journey dealing with type 2 diabetes and, you know, tackling it head on. And so it, again, like touched her as a project that she wanted to be a part of. Yeah, and we can't forget Miss Irma P. Hall. So she is a national treasure, but she's also, you know, a treasure to the DFW area because that's where she resides. And so we had the opportunity to meet her many times. And so she also came on board to Jerico and was in that film with us. And so we developed a relationship with her as well. And so she has a cameo in our film. And, you know, she is, again, like a national treasure and such an incredible person that we're so blessed to have her in the film.
Oh, that's nice. That's a blessing. In your, you know, being a filmmaker, what have you found like one of the most challenging things in producing any film?
There's different challenges at every stage of being a filmmaker.
Okay.
It's hard in the beginning to find funding and try to, you know, when you're putting the project together. I think, you know, the ideas will always come. Like there's a flood of ideas. If you ask me, if a financier showed up tomorrow, I could like give you like a slate of things that we could go do. So the ideas are flowing, but financing is always difficult in the beginning, and then distribution and like all of those steps everyone's a different challenge. But as an independent filmmaker, I would say funding is one of the biggest challenges.
And as far as like distribution with Impossible, is it your goal to try to get it on a streaming platform or to get it actually in the theaters?
Our goal would be really to have a twofold strategy that we're working through now, but we feel like the response that we had in the room when we, you know, so our film premiered at the Austin Film Festival, we had our West Coast premiere at Pan African. After each, and we screened at the Denton Black Film Festival here in Texas, and we won Best Film as a part of that festival. In each of those festivals, afterwards, we did a Q&A, and the conversations that we had in those rooms are why we made the film. Like at the end of Pan African, people asked us questions like, you know, how do I have this conversation with my father? Because I found out and he was trying to keep it a secret. And so now we're trying to work through, you know, people said things to us like, you know, this touched me so emotionally because I've lost friends and I'm dealing with. So those types of testimonials is why we made the film. So our goal from a distribution perspective is to have both an element where we can do community talkbacks and conversations to help support our community, but then also to have streaming release as well in order to get the masses. So we want to have both that hands-on touch point, but then also a mass release as well. So
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last thing what you said.
I said we're working through that now.
Okay, right. And dealing with diabetes, because I've heard of, is there a difference? I know I've heard of like sugar diabetes, and then is there like another diabetes?
They may be discussing type 1 diabetes versus type 2 diabetes. You know, type 1 often happens. A lot of people are born with type 1 diabetes, and often, you know, they're similar in that it's about insulin regulation in your body, but they're different often into the causes of it and how to manage it. Like often someone with type 1 diabetes may require an insulin pump, and they may have be dealing with that from childhood all the way up through. And often type 2 diabetes is developed, you know, later in life, although type 2 diabetes in childhood is increasing at a big rate, but they are different. They are different.
They are different. Do you have it? Are you going to submit it to the Cannes Film Festival? Is it too late to submit it to Cannes?
Wait for that. That's, I think, happening next month, or like very soon.
Oh, okay. But there's a few, like there's the, I believe it's the Black Star Film Festival that's is it in Florida, I believe? Yeah. And Canada, there's a big one in Canada, the Toronto, I think it's the Toronto Black Film Festival or the Black Film Toronto Festival.
Yeah,
So there's a few.
we're
Yeah,
getting it to a ton of festivals for sure.
that's good. That's good. So, well, if you don't mind, if anyone has any questions you would like to ask Seckeita, let me know. I can bring you into the room and you can ask her a question directly if you like.
Enter the room.
Um, how many days did it take for you to make this film?
I believe it was around 17 days. We had about 2 weeks of shooting, and then we had some pickups over the weekends. So I believe it's
Oh,
17.
17 days. And did everyone, so they had to fly down for those who lived in LA, they had to fly to Texas.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we actually had, our crew members were all over the place a little bit. So there was, of course, a large contingent of Texas crew and cast. But then, like you said, those folks that you mentioned earlier, Sherry's based in New York, Joe Marie's based in
Yeah.
Florida. Greg is based in LA, so there was quite a bit of travel involved. And then, the majority of the film was shot in the DFW area, but the last act was shot in New Mexico. So then there was a big travel to New Mexico in order to shoot that act of the film. And, we wanted to, it's a little bit of an escapist type of thing that
Right.
in the third act, and so we wanted to showcase the beautiful landscape of the mountains. And I mean, New Mexico is amazing. Great film office, and great partnership that we had out there, and so we shot that last act there.
Yeah, I was looking at from the trailer, from what I had seen, the visuals are so nice. I just smiled when I saw I was like, oh wow, look at, because I remember as a child, my family, we used to come out to California a lot.
Yeah.
And so we would take road trips. So, we drove through New Mexico, all those states, so you see all those beautiful mountains and you just like, oh wow, this is the Wild Wild West.
You know, we found that location from road trips. Brandon and I are huge road trippers. We drive as much as we can to wherever we're going, and New Mexico became a place that we would vacation, and just kind of
Hmm.
wandering and driving cross country. We found ourselves in that area of New Mexico a few times, and it led us to say, you know what, this is where the third act happened. We have to come back here and shoot it here.
Wow. So, it, when you guys did casting for extras, you did it, I'm sure, down in between Texas and New Mexico. Now, I'm thinking, is it difficult to obtain permits to shoot in certain areas?
Well, I'm gonna say not really, but then, with our first film, some of those areas had never had a film shot in that area before, so they didn't have a permit process. So, us coming to them for a permit made them say, oh, we should probably have a permit process for films. So,
Right.
so there's absolutely a process, but it wasn't, difficult. But in some of the smaller towns, they may not have a process, but in some cases they're like, you know what, go ahead. Yeah. So
Mhm.
in general, we found it pretty easy to work with the cities that we worked in order to get permissions to do things. New Mexico,
Mhm.
absolutely as well. We were able to,
Mhm.
directly with the owners of different land that we were working on, or work with
Mhm.
the city in order to get support.
Oh, okay. Now, being that you have an engineering background, did you ever take any film classes or directing classes, or it just came purely from your heart and you had a
No,
vision you just for?
with my first film, we kind of jumped in naively and just, learned as we go. And in many cases, we still are very like hands-on, let's learn as we go. But over the last couple of years after the first film, I've been really dedicated to learn as much as I can. So I didn't go to film school, but I did take classes from the like Sundance Film Collaborative. I've gone to film independent workshops. I've done, you name it. If it's out there, I've tried to go and do it, because my goal is to be better, right? With every project, I want the next one to be that much better than the last one. And so after the first one, it was like, I love doing this. I want to be better at doing this. You know, what can I have to improve myself?
I commend you. For one, I'm a big advocate of us getting more involved behind the camera as well as in front. People always say representation is important. It's true, but I'm very sensitive on what kind of representation. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And right. And so I commend you for you and your husband Brandon just, stepping up to the plate and using what you have to share a story. And now you have 2 films underneath your belt. And I was looking at the quality, everything. I was like, oh, this looks nice. Yeah. And I used to work for Polygram Films years ago. And then for a while. And then it switched over to, I think, Universal's. It went through a whole swap. I think is now at Focus Featured Films.
Okay.
So working behind the scenes and seeing a lot of different things, how it goes. So I learned a little bit about what happens behind the scene. And then I myself, I'm an actor myself, and I've made my own short film. So I get how the challenges can be and dealing with a budget and trying to raise money. And so you were able to do that. And so that in itself is a huge accomplishment. And you didn't even go to film school, hands-on. So it's kind of like, and there's a lot of great filmmakers out there that never stepped in a film institute, for learning. And we don't take nothing away from those. Bravo to those who went to NYU and Columbia, all those other places to get that education. I commend those people, but I just think it's something even kind of special for a person like yourself or like myself who we teach ourselves and then we educate ourselves as we go. And
it's funny because I think if I knew or thought of filmmaking as a career as a younger person, I probably would have gone to film.
Right.
But it didn't even occur to me as something that was attainable or accessible until much later in life. And so, like you said, then it's like, okay, I'm going to learn and just, as I go. But I think it's important that we challenge ourselves, that we're able to look back at our projects and go, okay, I'm very proud of it, but here are the places that I wish I had known or I learned or I'm growing from it. I did a producing class, and the very first thing I shared with them was the first short that Brandon and I made. We had gone to a film festival, we got inspired. Robert was speaking, and he was like, get out there and make your projects. And we were like, yeah, we're going to get out there, we're going to make our project. And, I edited, sound design, everything. We did it all ourselves. And we submitted it to ABFF. It was not selected. We went to ABFF that year, and we saw the films that were selected. And we were so humbled by what we saw because we saw incredible projects, great quality. And that was the challenge then. Like, oh, this is what a filmmaker does. Like what we did, we were learning and educating ourselves, but now we know what the bar is to be a serious film. And so I think it's important to be humble enough to look at the things that we do and say, okay, next time, let's continue to raise the bar on ourselves and let's.
Oh, of course, absolutely. You don't stay here. The goal is to always be better, right? Until you can't produce anymore. Yeah. And so even if you achieve applause, but that may not be your best work, that may be the best work for right then and there. But you still, as long as you have breath in you and life in you and the desire, is to keep going until you achieve to where you feel like, okay, this is really it. I left my legacy.
Right.
Right, exactly. And so let me ask you this. are there any actors that you would like to work with in the future?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, all of them. I mean, there's
Like who?
oh,
Like who would you like to work with? Let's put it out there in the atmosphere.
uh, I and it's funny. I wish I had written down the names in advance because there's so many faces that I know from different films and projects. I'm like, man, I would love to work with them, but I can't tell you their names right now. Like I'm blanking on all.
Right?
I'm all their names, but there's just I don't know if you remember the TV show Lost, but
I remember the show we lost, yeah.
basically most of the principal cast of Lost, a lot of those they were ancillary characters, but they just had brought so much texture, and they're big stars now on a whole bunch of different other projects. But I would love to work with them. I would love to work with and I just the woman who's the star of Star Trek Discovery now.
I don't
Yeah,
watch the show, so.
it's a Black woman whose name I just lost, and she's was from The Walking Dead and some things. But I would love to work with her, and then of course all of the big names, Viola Davis and Angela Bassett. Would love to work
Yeah.
with. But really, and
Right.
it's interesting. Felicia Rashad is still still at the top of my list as well. Like just amazing.
I've never met Felicia. I've met her sister Debbie, but I've never met Felicia. But well, first of all, I just love what those two sisters have accomplished, and that they're still in the game, as well as Whoopi. They still. I love the fact that they're at where they're at in life, and that they still commanding those dollars. One got a big old studio out here, and Felicia Rashad is now on the show Diara from Detroit, and she's a lead in that. And so she's still commanding. Right.
Script for Felicia Rashad right now.
I'm sorry.
I said I have a script for Felicia Rashad right now that I just.
Do you really? I get it to her. I love her, and I don't even know her, but I just love what they both represent. She and Debbie, and they give you something to aspire to, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And they always carry with dignity and class, and I just love it. Angela Bassett, I have had the chance to meet her, and Courtney Vance, and very nice people. Very nice people. I know someone who actually directed film. Well, it was a series actually with Courtney, and they won an Image Award. I think it was Heist, 88 or 88 Heist. So from what my personal short brief experience with them, they're very nice, nice, cool people. So what about Idris Elba?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people want to work with him.
Giancarlo, like I would love to work with him.
Oh yeah, he's an excellent actor. I mean, everything I've seen him in, he's an excellent actor. I also, in terms of female directors, I like what Regina King has been doing.
Yeah.
She's really great as well. I saw something that Brandon put in the post. He says, fun fact, Impossible was also shot on the same location as Oppenheimer. Oh, really? A Magnificent Seven, City Slickers, Indiana Jones, and more. Not many indies can say that. I agree, Brandon.
So that New Mexico Act 3 of our film is shot at Ghost Ranch, and it's the location of basically many of the westerns that you've seen in your lifetime are all often shot there. It's a beautiful, beautiful location that films.
Mm-hmm. let me ask you this. When you and Brandon had decided that you all were going to shift um, from your corporate careers to filmmaking, what was the reception from your family and friends? Were they very
Yeah.
supportive, or were they?
Yeah, and I think, I see it as a blending at all times, really. So like when we made our films, we were still working, in corporate America. Like I said, nights, weekends, vacations, and so we still do. And so um, I think the reception from our family has been incredibly supportive, and I think they're surprised and they're excited about the things that we've been able to create, and that the impact that we hope to make on the world from doing projects. I see like storytelling as something that branches all of those things. I love marketing, I love branding, I love story, I love, entertainment. And so I then will work across all of those at any one point in time for right moment.
Wow. And so you said you had a script. Is that your next upcoming project, or there's something else that you have coming up besides that?
That's a great question. So that is my first solo feature. Brandon and I co-wrote Impossible. And so that one is something that I've written, so is open for development, but it's a big budget script. So it's not a independent script.
Oh, it's a big,
Yeah,
okay. And it's a feature as well, right?
yeah. And then I'm also, that's a romance, actually, romance, magical realism, romance. And I've also just been focusing on writing short. So I've written a few shorts. One won a Cordillera Film Festival screenplay competition. So potentially looking at developing those, or looking at keeping them short stories, or just writing in some cases there. Brandon is working on a feature length as well, so looking that he may develop for future and further out as well. So I think we're focused on having content ready to go whenever,
Ready to go.
yeah,
Right,
whenever it's needed.
right. And what advice would you give someone who wants to make movies, who wants to work in the film industry? What advice? What would be the one thing you would tell someone
I
who?
would say don't be afraid of it. I think that if you're gonna do it, then just start researching, start learning, and start making stuff. Like, even I would start making stuff to learn, right? To practice. So start practicing and get into, not one piece of advice, a lot of advice, but um, get into the that are doing it, right? So go to the local festival and meet the people, see the quality of work and find where you want to be, but don't let the step of getting all the way to Ava DuVernay make you say, well, I'm not there, so I can't do it. I think take those steps, use your phone and shoot it, and use that as, right, learn and practice and put yourself in the best position to then be able to take that next step, because there's lots of competitions and fellowships and things out there. If you start practicing, start building a portfolio, then you'll be ready to get the support in order to take that next step.
I agree, because my first film, I use the phone, so yeah, and it's true, and even I've learned that you can't wait for something to be perfect. You have to start.
Yeah.
And whatever the story that you want to tell it the best way possible.
Yeah.
With what you have. It's like Moses, use what you have in your hand. Most, so you use what you have that's available, and trust. I'm a woman of faith. Trust that the Most High would do the rest, and you just keep moving, because that's really what it takes. And another thing too, what I was thinking is, I had a friend to tell me this. She said, Saundra, she says, you can make a great film. This is key. You can make a great film, I've seen many a great films that even get placed in theaters. But something that I think filmmakers overlook or don't put much thought into because they're focusing on getting the story told is the marketing.
Yeah.
Because you have to have budget for marketing, because after you've made this movie, now you got to get it out there for people to know what it is.
Yeah.
And that is like, because I've seen some movies that was just like, that was good enough to be nominated for an Oscar,
Yeah.
but it didn't get the marketing that they needed.
Yeah.
And that can like set a great film back in terms of wider distribution of people being able to see that. When it comes to the marketing aspect, what are some of the keys, or at least one of the things that a person must do in order to make sure that they have great marketing?
Yeah, I think marketing makers, the independent filmmakers dilemma for sure, because most independent filmmakers are, don't have the funds to make the film to start with, right? And so, you don't have the funds to make the film, so you figure out how to get it made, but now you a shoestring or with debt and things like that to make it happen. So marketing is like their mind, but to your point, to really the return on the investment, the market is so important, and if you're able to really to build that budget from the beginning. And so what for us, we've always in the past we've had very small budgets when it comes to marketing as well, because like I said, it's the independent filmmaker's dilemma. What we've done is always been hyper targeted. With like when we were on the festival circuit, we never.
I'm sorry, I can't. Okay, say it again. Yeah.
With we never had a screening not be sold out or close to sold out, and because we were super targeted with our marketing of each screening in that city, in that area, with like we did a lot of social marketing when we were doing, and I think one of the things that you do is look for partnerships. So who cares about the type of film that you're making, and find those partners or elevate or extend your, because like you said, you may not do it alone, but that space that you can both together. Oh, she can't hear. Let me bring it even closer.
Okay.
Hopefully that's a little better, and I'll try to talk a little louder. But I think
I can hear now. I can. Okay. Can you hear T? Okay.
I hope so. But I said it's finding out who are partners that may be aligned with your mission and what you're trying to do in order to help extend the reach of your marketing funds, because you may not be able to do it all on your own. In most cases, you won't be able to do it all. Be super targeted so that every dollar really matters. And so, like I said, when we were doing screenings, we're super targeted. And then, I think it's people like you who, want to share the message. And so making those connections are important, right? Like whatever the next step for our film is, we're going to reach out to you and tell you about it, and hopefully you'll share, and that's marketing. It's like, it's the influencers that are out there in the world that want to help, that want you to be successful. I think you have to really try to meet those people and get out there as much as possible from a marketing perspective. I don't know. It's a lot of word of mouth. It's a lot of hands-on. I've seen some incredible campaigns though for people who have like done self-distribution or have, put their films up on different platforms, who've done Facebook or Instagram campaigns. I've seen some really good ones that I've been really impressed by as well. So once you get to that distribution, to have those kind of targeted promotion plans as well.
Yeah, and I this is true, because it's I think because we have the internet at our disposal, at least for right now, so much going on in the world. But because we have that, we have a little bit more control to get involved in the aspect of pushing the product ourselves and not necessarily waiting on, because the last thing I would want to do is create a great project and then it sits on the shelf of some company.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they even paid you off and now it's, no, I want my movie out. You know?
Right.
You know, and especially if it's an important one that we need to see. You want your movie out, and you don't. So even when you're looking for distribution, you want to make sure that they're not just acquiring it and just tucking it away, especially if it's something that can benefit our community. Especially, you want them to do what they say they're going to do. They're going to push and they're going to market.
Yeah.
The movie, and I always believe in word of mouth is one of the best advertising. So first of all, I'm grateful for even to be able to be in this situation, to meet people such as yourself and Brandon and other people that I've had coming on into the room. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to set this up, is because I know we are very creative, powerful storytellers, and just we have a lot going on for ourselves, and to be able to be in a position to share that with the masses, with the world, for those who are interested in hearing. I want to be a part of that. I didn't want to be a person on the outside. And it's just like, if you want something to change, you have to get involved to help make that change. So yeah, I'm definitely here for you. Whenever your next project comes, hit me up. We can come on and talk about it. So with that being said and done, I cannot help tell you enough. Thank you so much to you and to Brandon for you guys just sharing the link, willing to share your story, your journey in filmmaking, and come on, enter the room. And I'm praying that soon enough that we all be able to see Impossible, because I really want to see it. So when are you going to do a screening in Chicago? Are you going to do it?
Hopefully at some point, yeah.
At some point, yeah, at some point. So maybe I'll be there when you get ready to do the screening, or maybe you'll be back in LA. Or I could be in Texas, who knows? But, or just when it comes out in the movie, in the films, that's what we really hoping for, that we'll all be able to see it. But with that being said and done, thank you. Praying all the best for you and Brandon and your baby girl, and your vision, your dreams to make your mark even further, because you've made your mark, but to be even further while you have the time to do it within the entertainment industry. Until next time, I want to thank everyone who tuned in today. Thank you so much for joining Seckeita and I. Their production company is called Lewis Taylor Productions. You can follow Seckeita at Lewis Taylor Productions, and also follow Brandon. He's The Impossible. It's called The Impossible Movie. Yeah, Impossible Movie.
Impossible the movie. Yeah.
Impossible the Movie. So you can follow them on Instagram. And do you have a Facebook page as well?
We do. It's Impossible Film.
Okay. So please follow them and look out for any of their. They have Jerico that's on Amazon, right? Okay. The movie Jericho, and that looks really good. That is now streaming on Amazon. Go support it. Go watch it, and look for any of the other projects. Until then, you all take care, be blessed, and I will see you later. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.